Welcome to the inaugural, the first premiere episode of Miami's On Fire, a Thursday live stream podcast, 1 o'clock, where we're going to talk about what's going on in culture, real estate, as well as hacks and history in the Miami area so you can thrive, you can survive, and you can ultimately embrace what is this great community. That's Oscar Musibay. He is a former real estate reporter, a journalist. He's also now a office broker. I'm Peter Zalewski. I'm a condo consultant, expert witness, and founder of the Miami Condo Investing Club. Oscar's going to be moderating, so let me take that baton, Oscar, and pass it off to you, and do not trip.
So we're calling it Miami's on Fire because Miami is about booms and busts, right? Everybody comes here to make a fortune. Sometimes they don't stay here because it's either they've been run out of town, they went to jail, or they wanted to try and swindle somebody else. So today we're going to talk about some of those stories that have built Miami and where we're going now. The great thing about Peter and I is that we've known each other for many years. And for example, we have a whole debate going on right now about the name of this program. I think it should be Miami's on Fire. Peter has some other really bad opinions, and at this point, we're still deciding. So if you guys have ideas about what it could be, throw them into our feed, put them into the comments, send us emails. You can call me at 786-348-9257. Call me because Peter is not going to pick up. He doesn't read email.
Nope.
He doesn't read text. He's constantly sending memes about who knows what. A lot of stuff having to do with Miami and how Miami's going down the drain, that the condo market is on fire. Speaking of on fire. And he's got data that he says will show that. Am I right, Peter?
Oscar, more importantly, why don't we lay out what we're going to do in this episode? What we're going to do is I'm going to interview you, you're going to interview me. We're going to give the people an idea who we are, what we're all up against, and then maybe we'll get into some topics. We'll drop some little tidbits. We want to make this a program where you tune in and you feel like you're at a bar. Maybe you're at Flanagan's. Maybe you're at a bagel bar. Maybe you're at Deli Lane, although I think they're moving. And you can basically just have a conversation with somebody who's a local. Now, you were not born and raised here. I was not born and raised here. I've been here since 93. You've been here since what, the 70s?
Since the 70s.
Yeah. So we've seen the booms and the busts and the peaks and the hustles and the people who got arrested and their kids who are now developers. We've seen it all.
We have. And we've written a lot of those stories. We got into trouble for writing stories like that about all the characters that are here in Miami trying to make, a name for themselves, to build a brand, to create legacy for themselves, using dirt to make their sculptures of buildings, houses, apartments, offices, all these things that make Miami what it is. So when you see the skyline, each one of those buildings has a story, and not all of them are positive. I mean, I can think back to what used to be called the Centrus building, which is now the City National building. And that building was built by a guy who had gold water faucets, right, in his office. And that was like one of the biggest stories that eventually that building was sold because, it went belly up basically. But
David Paul, right?
David Paul,
he ran Centrust.
Yep.
He was involved with a savings and loan. The beautiful building you see in downtown Miami looks like a wedding cake, a profile shot.
That's it.
It's layered. I.M. Pei is the architect of it.
That's
building was gorgeous. It was beautiful. He ends up going to prison for a couple shenanigans.
Right.
And what happens? He ultimately gets out. I get invited to a wedding. The wedding is over on Hibiscus Island. It's one of those little islands when you're driving from downtown Miami over to South Beach. It would be on the north side. I get invited to this wedding, and it's going on a about a 3-story boat, a yacht. We go on there, and once you're out to sea, you're at sea. Who's on there? David Paul. David Paul had really had a smoking habit, like a hardcore one, and I'll never forget seeing him on the cruise. I was able to talk to him a little. I didn't bring a prison or anything, but he's sitting there. He's got like Paul Mall's 100s, and the ash is like curling over. And it's one of those things when you watch it, you're kind of wondering, when is the ash exactly going to fall? That type of situation. So the moral of the story is, doesn't matter where you go in South Florida, you're going to run into a lot of the people that you hear about, you see. They're just, they're in circulation, which is what makes it so interesting about all your boys coming down here from Silicon Valley. The ones who are dropping 140 million, 150 million, 160 million. They're all going to have body bodyguards. My experience in South Florida is you don't need a bodyguard. You just go and you interact and mingle with everybody. So tell us a little bit about, the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world, the Larry Pages of Google. You say Miami's on fire, which means if you're younger, it means it's a good thing.
Right.
If you say Miami's on fire, to me, it means the thing is scorched earth.
That's right.
Tell us about Zuckerberg. Tell us about Larry Page. Tell us about why you're so optimistic about wellness.
So Miami is going through one of those booms right now where a lot of billionaires are coming here and buying big houses, sometimes properties that are next to each other because they want to build a giant complex or, a compound. And part of the reason is because of the state tax situation. We don't have the kinds of taxes you would find in California.
No income tax.
No income tax.
No city income tax.
That's right. So, and now they're debating removing the tax on homesteaded houses. So that means Zuckerberg and Griffin and all those guys are not going to pay a penny of tax potentially on their multi-million-dollar mansions, right?
Zuckerberg, I ran the numbers based on his $150 million acquisition. You know how much money he'd save?
How much?
If they get rid of the 2% property tax? Although they're talking about saving some for the school, saving some for the county, just get rid of the city. $4 million a year.
Wow.
$4 million a year.
Yeah. So you could buy like a small little dinghy.
You can buy more than a dinghy
in Miami
with $4 million. Yeah, you can buy a lot of Bitcoin. Shout out to Mayor Francis Suarez, former mayor, pushing the whole Bitcoin in the Bitcoin bull situation. So.
Yes. Funny enough, and I know you know this because you have a walking tour in downtown Miami.
We do.
The Bitcoin bull is actually at Miami-Dade College. If you want to take a look at it, that bull that at one point, where was it? Where did it start its life? Was it on Miami Beach?
No, I don't think so. I think it was unveiled when they had all the crypto bros in town right after the pandemic when you didn't have to wear a mask. You could come to Florida. You could work from home in Miami Beach and Ocean Drive. So come on down, get on a cop car and twerk, twerk, twerk. That's when it got down here, when you could twerk on a police car. Now it's sitting by Miami-Dade College on the Wolfson campus right there in downtown Miami.
That's right.
Which fittingly or unfittingly is located from the federal prison and the courthouse.
That's right. So Miami is full of these stories, characters, landmarks. We were just having a conversation, Peter and I, about the history of Miami and the characters that today are known household names in the real estate business, like
George
Pappas,
Merrick, Carl Fisher, Addison Meisner, if you're a Palm Beacher.
Incredible stories. And it's really the DNA of Miami is real estate.
But you know what's interesting? And there's a book that I stress to everybody. If you have any inkling about history or real estate, there's a book you got to read. It's called Bubble in the Sun. It came out in 2019. It is written by a guy called Christopher Knowlton, who's a business journalist, financial journalist, worked at Forbes and others. But he wrote this book and he documented the 1920s Florida land boom. Okay. And what's interesting about that, though, is going through and reading it, you come, and I've read it 7 times.
Wow.
You come to realize that the developers we know today, the ones we've interviewed, the ones you might have been very nice to, the ones I've gone hard at, they're the same people as they were 1920s.
Right.
It's the exact same crowd. Right. So Oscar, riddle me this. Do we actually know the developers that 100 years from now, people are going to be talking about with great and putting them in high esteem? Do you think there's any developers in this current generation, even some of the guys long in the tooth like George Perez of the related group, are any of these guys going to be recognized long-term as leaving their fingerprints on the city of Miami, Miami-Dade County, or all of South Florida?
So I think based on history of Miami, right, that all these people are going to be probably exalted as great leaders of Miami, the people who created the kind of destination that everyone wants to go to. We become a very popular place to live and work, and you can see that based
international passenger traffic at Miami International Airport.
You got to learn about Peter. This is one thing you got to learn about Peter. You got to get your words in there quickly because he is a fast talker and he talks a long time, man. So here's the deal, which I think is interesting, is that people like George Perez, all these guys that have been building for a long time, I think are going to be held in high esteem by many people. But the story, just like of Perez, of Merrick, all these people are very complex, right? We were just having that conversation about Merrick, that Merrick now has a statue of him, right?
George Merrick, the founder of Coral Gables.
That's right.
The city is named after his house that his mother named.
Yeah.
His father was a religious man.
Right.
Came down here to grow fruit. They would peddle it in downtown Miami. George Merrick had all kinds of ideas. He went to New York City. He had all kinds of ideas. His father starts getting sick. I think it was Solomon Merrick. He's buried over at Woodlawn Cemetery right there off of 8th Street and 32nd. All of a sudden, he's got to come back and take over the estate. He's like, dude, this is the last thing I want to do. He's got to get on a train, come on down. This isn't Bubble in the Sun. He comes down here, he's figuring, okay, how am I not going to go crazy by having to work on this 160-acre plantation, if you will, or farm? So he comes up with the idea as real estate starting to boom. Remember, we're coming out of the pandemic. They call it the Spanish flu back then. I don't know what they call it now. I'm not sure if it's politically correct or accurate, but that's what it's called. Coming out of World War I, you're coming out of a situation where, guess what? People are reconsidering their lives. Remember how we all were after 2021 when we were coming out of COVID and stuff like that? So they start going. He's got all this dirt. He rolls it all up. He puts together all these estates. He buys out Old Man Lejeune. He buys out Old Man Douglas. If anybody knows Coral Gables, you're going to recognize these streets. Well, these streets were named after people that had homesteads.
Right.
So he tries to make something happen. George Perez, let's fast forward, to the 2001s, 2002s.
Right.
Was he that good, or was he a man in the right place at the right time who could speak English and Spanish and be able to raise capital, sell condos, as well as he knew the ins and outs of how to get a project over the line? And that'll be the question that historians and pundits will have to ask.
Well, in terms of the face of Miami, I think as a developer, Perez is the face of Miami.
And I don't know if we mentioned it, George Perez, the related group. Yeah, related group. Yeah,
that's right. And Perez has built many of the condominiums that we identify as being, what you see when the NFL is showing B-roll of the city. They show Miami Beach, they show the skyline of Brickell, they show
candy. It's eye candy, but when you get inside, though, is it exactly what you see from the outside?
So I would say that in terms of what we've seen already, in how certain developers and people who were entrepreneurs who created identities for cities like Merrick, that Perez is going to be held in that same esteem, even though some people like you sometimes throw tomatoes at him because you don't like certain aspects of his.
I think what he's done for the city of Miami is fantastic, projects. But I think he guaranteed his legacy by donating money to put on the art museum.
Okay.
It doesn't hurt if you donate enough cash. So Adrian Arsh, a banker who moved down here from Washington, D.C.
Right.
She donates money because she's in the culture. Now it's the Adrian Arsh Performing Arts Center.
That's right.
I bet a lot of people couldn't pick out her picture from anybody.
I remember there was a controversy around the naming of the art museum for Perez, the one that's on the bay. And I said, who else is lining up to give millions, tens of millions of dollars and art to a gallery? Why are you going to complain about it? I mean, he created something out of nothing. To me, that has value that is very, very important to Miami's maturation into what it is today. And it's one of the most iconic buildings in downtown Miami. So I supported the idea of putting Perez's name on it, but it was a huge controversy.
It was a controversy.
Controversy around the idea that someone would name the art gallery. Oh my God, horrible. No, it's how people identify a lot of Miami, and I think it's fantastic. Now, at one point, they had talked about putting Marlins Stadium on the bay. I was not in support of that.
They had it on the river, too. They were going to put it on the river, right at the north bank of the river, across from the immigration court.
That's right. You can still see the water from the Marlins Stadium we have today, and it is a stunning stadium. That is also another milestone kind of project that City of Miami created, that Manny Diaz created when he was mayor, that will outlive all of us. It's such a beautiful place. And
it's nothing compared to the Orange Bowl. The Orange Bowl was this historic venue,
right,
located on the same exact site.
Yeah.
it would have aged very well. It would have been a legendary place, much like,
first of all,
much like Fenway Park in baseball in Boston.
Okay, you've been to Fenway. You've been to Fenway?
Yeah, Wrigley Field in Chicago.
We're going to talk all of them.
Yeah, but I'm saying
because you're from Chicago.
But Orange Bowl would have been something spectacular. Marlins Park,
I disagree,
or Lone Depot Park, or whatever the hell they're calling it now. It doesn't carry the same cachet.
Orange Bowl was like torture. It was like a kind of water torture.
It didn't have the
seats
creature.
were horrible.
It didn't have the creature comforts.
The seats were horrible.
The stadium would shake if you were in the men's room.
Would shake. There was nothing around it that allowed people to, enjoy and go there for the day. It was a mess. It was a mess.
If you're coming from a bougie perspective, I can understand why you would say that.
Right.
But if you're coming from a traditional purist approach,
the
Orange Bowl was fantastic.
I was talking to.
It had the history. It had the history.
So talk about the history of baseball.
City of Miami, South Florida, overall, 50 years, you're historically significant. So you are historically significant.
Yes.
I am not yet there, but you are historically significant. So what I'm saying is, when we have these beautiful, links to the past,
yes,
we really ought to celebrate them. I did a podcast a couple weeks ago. And the podcast I did was a guy called Michael Pappas.
Yeah, I know
Michael Pappas runs a company called Kais. Yes. He says everybody calls them keys, Kais. Yeah, he said in Spanish they call them la llave.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's the Kais company. So I was talking to him about the story. So there's a guy who came down, set up the Kais company.
Right.
He set up the company in February of 1926. The peak of the 1920s Florida land boom was January of 1926. Ultimately, when the market turned and everybody was going belly up,
right,
what the Kais company did is they pivoted. They got into property appraisal, which would have been back then the equivalent of big data today.
Sure.
So they get into big data, and they also got into distressed property management, where they were managing all these properties where people had basically lost everything. Right. And they were able to pivot. They were able to evolve. A variety of different things happened along the line. And, this is kind of the key, I think, to Miami's history, is understanding how it changes and understanding some of the players. Because a lot of the families that were around back then, they're still up and operational. Unfortunately, we don't hear anything about the Brickles anymore. Nothing about the Tuttles. I don't know about Julia Tuttle. I don't think she had any kids or anything.
Their names on places in Miami, which is a great legacy. But the inheritors of that family are not people who we know as active, timely players in today's market.
John Collins, the guy who had most of Miami Beach. You don't hear anything about, although Pancoast, I guess, was a son-in-law. I think Pancoast is still around here.
Yeah.
But there's all this history that's buried right under the surface.
Right.
Including, because you do office space.
I do.
Including the first office tower to go up on Brickell Avenue was done by a guy called Alan Morris. Alan Morris apparently was working under Mr. Kais, who set up Kais Real Estate. He then fled. He went off on his own. He built an office tower on Brickell Avenue. Then that follows suits with Alan Morris Jr. effectively taking over. And now the son has taken over, Spencer Morris, who's building condos, one in the Grove, one in Coral Gables. So you can still see the legacy is going on and on. So I guess my question to you, Oscar, is from an office space perspective, and I don't know anything about office space. I'm not really interested in it. Could care less about it.
Right.
What's going on in the office market? Who are the dominant players in the office market? Is there a George Perez for office? Is it Alan Morris? Is it that family? Is it maybe, I don't know, Armando Codina, who put up an office tower on Alhambra and the Gables? Can you kind of talk about the office market?
So I think Morris and Codina are two of the most dominant commercial office players. And from the Codina tree, you get Tere Blanca, you get Jose Juncadella, George Pino. You get all these people who made a name for themselves on their own after the Codina company changed, right? And the amazing story of Armando Codina is that he's basically building downtown Doral. You go down there and you see everything that they're doing, and it's like probably his dream, of creating a city from nothing.
That's his legacy.
That's his legacy, but it's also his daughter's legacy.
Yeah, but he didn't start off with office though. He started off draining swamp
with industrial
and putting in industrial and having something called flex space.
Yep.
A little bit of office and mostly warehouse when there was nothing. You used to go to Doral, Oscar. Well, it wasn't Doral. Right. It wasn't incorporated till much later. There were no restaurants. You had to go like a trucker's gas station, a truck stop. What do they call it? In order to get, there was nothing out there to see how it's meant to. Didn't Armando also build a Dolphin Mall? So wasn't he actively involved with Dolphin Mall?
Dolphin is Swerdlow.
Swerdlow. But Armando wasn't involved in any way?
I don't think Armando was involved with Dolphin. I can't remember. I remember Swerdlow being very, very involved in that project. And
then you had the Adlers too, weren't they? Wasn't the Adler family somehow involved with office, or was that
still very active?
Yeah.
But in terms of office and industrial specifically, when you think of those two categories and in the area that you're talking about, like Airport West, all that.
Airport West, I haven't heard that forever.
Yeah, Airport West.
That's the old school name for Doral.
It is. And Airport West still has a lot of interest because really that's where a lot of our Fortune 500 companies are, right? Airport West. And Airport West is also an area that, because of its proximity to the airport, there's a lot of interest from medical companies and Baptist, all these different service providers that want to locate there. So we're still getting a lot of activity for buildings in that area, a lot of calls all the time for those types of companies that are looking, La Colonia, all these people that are looking for space to be able to build a building. Funny enough, here in Community News, where in South Miami, where they're headquartered, there's a lot of activity around us. You got Larkin, Baptist, all these people that are trying to create a medical hub around Community News, and it's only getting more and more concentrated.
Okay, I got to stop you here. Okay, you have glossed over the fact that the Miami Community News building is one of the few links we have back to the historically to kind of the journalism world here. The Miami Herald site, gone.
Yeah.
Miami Daily News, which is now known as the Freedom Tower, it's got nothing to do with newspapers anymore. Miami Today is now going to be replaced with some sort of high-rise. That's where Brickell City Center was. Just ask yourself, what publications headquarters are still sort of standing? What is the link? And that's what we got here in South Miami.
Right.
I love coming in this building every single time I come in there. I honestly, I love it. You have the pictures. You have the touch to the past. You have all that type of stuff. If anybody ever has an opportunity, I would tell you, listen, come to the Miami Community News, say hi to Grant, make sure you bug him. He's not doing anything all day anyways. Come in here, say hi, ring the doorbell, ask some questions, see if you can see the studio, because the place is great. But as you walk through it, you see the history, you feel the history, the pictures, the signatures.
Yeah.
I just saw a jersey of Vinny Testaverde.
Yeah.
He was a quarterback.
Yes.
For University of Miami.
Yeah.
He then played in the pros. They have this stuff hanging out all over. There's a picture of Grant Miller.
Yes. With Bill Clinton. That's right.
Yeah. And Bill Clinton's holding one of their publications outside the Biltmore Hotel.
It's true.
I mean, the history that exists here is just
incredible.
It's fantastic. So I don't think you should just gloss over when you talk about the Miami Community News headquarters, in my opinion.
Well, this is what we can definitely agree on, is that the family that built this dynasty, this Community News dynasty, is not resting on its laurels. So, Michael and Grant's father started the business, and they've taken it to a whole new level. You come here on any week and you'll see dozens of different kinds of people talking about their businesses and what's important to them, their nonprofits, all these things. They have events here, Casa Cuba, and I've been fortunate over many years to know them and understand them, and I feel like they are a foundational kind of family, right? Because the Herald changed. They sold their building.
Dumped it.
Yeah, it's now, still in process. They put up tents there for our Basel whenever the shows come in.
Genting,
and
the group out of Malaysia.
Genting, those guys dumped that.
A lot of the television channels, the stations.
Yeah.
What is it, Channel 7, who now also owns the ABC
Yeah, we were
affiliate
just
down here?
talking about...
They're moving out west, aren't they? They're giving up North Bay Village, the man-made islands in the middle of the bay that I call a rest stop. Like the Florida Turnpike, when you stop off to use the restroom, get something to drink on your way to somewhere else, which kind of North Bay Village is. Well, they're moving a TV studio.
That's right.
So I mean, what touch do we have to the past down here?
It's interesting because Miami is always criticized for not having a commitment to the past, right? But I think it's very hard because I think Miami is about transformation.
Yes.
And the thing about Miami is that we don't stop to allow things to become static, to become stale, right? We're constantly moving, constantly changing, constantly
do people
allowing people who are from another place like you and I to come here and create their destiny, right? To make something of themselves that will be foundational, that'll move the city forward, right? And I think that is part of why Miami is what it is today, that people feel comfortable coming here with ideas, with dreams, and making them happen, like Pitbull, for example. You know, one of the biggest stars in the world, entertainment stars. He's got vodka. He's got, you know, a school. He bought the Gussman. I mean, he's
got a stadium.
He's got
FIU, Florida
FIU.
International University.
Yes.
He's got the naming right for the
incredible.
stadium.
It's incredible what people can do in this town, right? They can come here and dream the biggest dream and make it happen. So,
and they've all come through this town.
And they all have come through. Now, what does that mean for us as a city? Well, I remember that the Performing Arts Center, right? The one that you brought up a little while ago, the Adrian Arts,
where they took the old Sears.
Yes.
They kept effectively the ornamental front of it.
Yep.
They knocked the rest of it down. They built this massive Performing Arts Center. It's on two sides of the street.
Yeah, the Opera House, and then you got the Performing Arts Center, which are both stunning.
Yep.
And I remember when they were...
We got it in the background? No, we don't have it. Michael Miller, Grant, they listen.
Get that in
need to update this thing. We need to get the Performing Arts Center in here.
That's right. So... the funny thing about that place where the Performing Arts Center and the Opera House are is that it's right next to where the Herald
which is about 13th, 14th or so in Biscayne.
14, right next to Venetian.
Yep.
A major focal point for downtown Miami. And they put it there for a reason, because the Herald was there, because all this development was supposed to be coming into that core area. And it has happened. Edgewater is one of the most, popular places. In fact, I have offices. Popular.
I don't know if it's popular.
In terms of development.
Yeah, I don't know if it's popular.
It is a focal point for a lot of development.
Go there. They go there because they can't afford Brickell. Think of Greater Downtown Miami as a law firm.
Right.
When you're an admin assistant, you're living in Edgewater. When you're an up-and-coming partner, you're living between the MacArthur Causeway and the river. And when you've made it, your managing partner sitting back going to lunch all the time, you're all the way down south on Brickell. So when you look at Greater Downtown Miami, think of it like a law firm.
Yeah.
You don't aspire to live in Edgewater. You end up there because it's all you can afford. You ultimately aspire to live on Brickell.
So I'm going to tell you an alternative story.
Please.
Yes, because you love my alternative story. What's happening right now, which is very interesting, is that people in Brickell are leaving Brickell
because it's too popular, like Yogi Berra said.
Because it's too expensive. So you have businesses that are, potentially paying over $100 a square foot for office space that are like, you know what? Coral Gables is less expensive than that, right? Coral Gables has incredible amenities, restaurants, all the same great stuff. New office at the plaza, new restaurants, incredible apples at the plaza, right? All these opportunities are different. Coconut Grove, right? The two office markets that have the tightest markets are Coconut Grove and Aventura. They have the least amount of vacancy.
Because of demand or because there's simply no product?
I think there's demand, but also because there's limited product. It's not where people are building, a lot of new office. They're building a lot of residential, and Coconut Grove is getting more office, but both of those markets are limited by, who is looking to make the most money, right? And where they think they can do that. And where they think they could do that is places like Brickell and Edgewater. Why Edgewater? Because Edgewater, it's in the name. It's right next to the water. And for many, many years, it was small buildings, 2 stories. I lived in Edgewater on 30th Street, right there at Biscayne. And you could walk literally from your building to the bay without any kind of obstruction. Now, Related has built how many towers over there? 5 towers.
They got the 4 Paradisos, and then they got Icon Bay.
Yeah, 5 towers in one little pocket.
Yep.
And David Martin is in there. All these developers are in there. Why? Because it's available, right? Single family homes and also small apartment buildings that were purchased and are being knocked down and redeveloped as these giant towers, right? These giant condominium towers and apartment towers. Mello's in there. So all these guys are looking to that area because that is where they see the greatest opportunity.
No,
it's next to the water. And it's next to the water. So that's why they're there. Now, I'll tell you this. I have space.
You say that, I talk a lot.
I have space at 30th and Biscayne. All day, all day, all day. We're getting people walking through there looking for office calls every single day. That's telling me that there is an enormous amount of demand for office players who live in that district, live in the rentals, live in the condos. Your customers, right, who bought those condos, probably overpaid, and
No, my people don't overpay.
and now are renting, and they want to work near where their apartment is, right? They don't want to drive. Why? Because traffic is difficult, and if you're in Brickell, forget it. It's wall-to-wall traffic in the afternoon. So it's a story of transformation, and Edgewater is a community that exemplifies that type of transformation, right? It's going from something that was very low-key, low density to very high density. What is the impact of that?
It was cheap.
It was cheap.
People lived in Edgewater. Listen, when I first got here in 1993, there were two things that happened.
Right.
One, when you looked at the bottom of a license plate, Florida license plate, it said rental. So what did the local people do? They started robbing them. They knew these are the people to rip off. That's how they went after the tourists. If you drive down Interstate 95 or the Florida Turnpike, you're going to see 24-hour security outside these rest stops.
Yeah.
That's because back in the day, they were robbing primarily Germans and Brits who were fighting back, and then they were getting killed.
Yeah,
so you had that. What was the other part that you had in the 90s?
Cocaine.
No, people would make fun of Biscayne Boulevard. This is where all the hookers were. This is where the vices.
But we were just coming out of the cocaine cowboys.
You just went on your little diatribe, so hold on. Margaret Pace Park.
Right.
This park that is located roughly about 17 Terrace, going a little bit farther north, right around where the Something About Mary House was until the crane fell down, collapsed, killed some people, and ultimately got taken out. Margaret Pace Park had a wrought iron fence around it to keep out the prostitute, the drug dealers, the druggies, all that type of stuff. Right. This is how much the area is transformed.
Right.
But yet at the same point, it still hasn't arrived.
Well, now it's open for the OnlyFans models, right? That are, I mean, Miami is the capital. That's right. Miami is the capital. We're about transformation. That's what it's all about.
Let me ask you about transformation.
Yeah.
You were a journalist.
I was.
You did it for a long time. You were out in L.A. You like to rub elbows with the celebrity types. You were writing entertainment.
Yeah, I was.
For the Associated Press.
Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson.
Yes.
Did you ever learn to moonwalk?
I did not.
Okay.
I can do the forward moonwalk. I can't do the backward one.
Walk us through the transformation. You're out in Los Angeles. Right. You're covering the entertainment, the celebrities, all that type of stuff.
Right.
You end up coming back to Miami. Walk us through it so people have an understanding of sort of your grasp and your take on what's going on.
So how I got to LA was because of Andy.
You gotta say it correctly. Los Angeles.
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles.
That's right. Not like the gringo says it, but how I got there is that the Andrew Cunanan story had broken. I worked at the Associated Press.
The gentleman who assassinated Versace outside of his house.
That's right.
On Ocean Drive.
That's right. And at the Associated Press, I was a stringer back then, which meant that I wasn't full time. I was part time, and they would just send me wherever. And
but listen, you got to put that in like local, real terms. Now, you were a gig worker.
I was a gig worker. Yeah, that's a good way to think about it.
You were a gig worker.
Peter's very modern. He's like up with all the things the kids are saying these days.
You're the one that came up with Miami's on Fire.
That's right. So the best part about that story is that, or the interesting part about that story is that Cunanan came down to Miami. Why? Because Miami is this place that attracts the most interesting, dynamic people and the craziest people, right?
You come here for a job, you come here for love, or you're running from the law.
That's right. So Cunanan was probably doing all three at that point. Because he was running from the law, right? He had stolen a pickup truck.
Killed somebody
in Chicago, which is where Peter's from originally. And he came down to Miami, and, we were following that story. And unfortunately, Gianni Versace, that owned this unbelievable mansion on Ocean Drive, was a victim of this guy's crazy idea of how to become famous or whatever he thought he was doing. And it was an incredible time because one of the funniest parts of all of that is being a reporter when there are police press conferences, right, which happen in front of City Hall in Miami Beach. The case was still evolving, and the whole Cunanan story had not really broken at that point.
But he was hanging out in the Miami subs.
He was.
And that was located right across the street at Miami Beach on Washington, and what is that, probably about 10th, 11th?
Yeah.
Police station is on the west side
Right.
of the street. Street
That's
runs
right.
north-south.
That's right.
He's on the east side.
He's on the
He
east
probably
side.
got like a Euro, or he got some
Oh,
wings
yeah.
or whatever. You don't know what to order at Miami Subs. Now it's called Miami Grill because they have like 10 million items.
Well, do you remember?
He was probably eating some fries. He's standing at a bar stool window, checking out, watching it all while we're searching for him.
And also, he was hanging at a Twist, which is still around actually on Washington.
Yes.
He, which is a bar dance club, and he was known to have gone there. And all this is happening, and the police are having press conferences. And Miami Beach, and Miami being what it is that I'm at the press conference listening to what the cops are saying, and there are members of the public who are, hanging out there, sitting on the floor, watching this as entertainment, and they start asking questions of the police. They're asking better questions than the reporters. It was the craziest scene I've ever seen in my life.
So Cunanan ultimately is found dead in a houseboat across from Fontainebleau and Eden Rock.
That's right. And that story was something that I helped break nationally.
Well done.
Yeah,
That's a big story.
It was a huge story. It was a big deal, and as a result of that, I was able to go to Los Angeles and work there for a little while.
You wanted to go to L.A. or Associated Press forced you to go there?
No. They gave me an opportunity to go to L.A. That was a plum job, and I went there and I worked the radio desk and all of that. So,
where did you live in Los Angeles area?
In a community called Los Feliz, the Happy, right?
Yeah.
And
not to be confused with the former Happy's bar and package store, which was on 79th Street in North Bay Village.
Which they moved because
they knocked the damn thing down. In fact, it was in the movie Matthew McConaughey and Snoop Dogg. They did a movie about Matthew McConaughey being like some beach bum or something, but they actually filmed it in there before they ultimately knocked it down. Now Shoma is going to be supposedly. They've been building forever. They're going to put up some rental tower, condo, and a Publix and stuff like that. But you know how everybody liked that.
I mean, that Happy's place, you and I went there together, right?
Yeah, it was a shot and bear joint. They used to do a 3-for-1 happy hour.
What a crazy place.
Yeah, you didn't want to use, if you went in the bathrooms, you had to take an approach like when you go to India. The only thing you touch is yourself and those bathrooms.
Right. You do your business and get out.
And
it sounds like Peter, how he explains it. It could be a criminal offense.
Yeah, but listen, Happy's has now moved down the street.
Yes.
They released out of space.
Have you been to the new Happy's?
Dude, they got white napkins.
Yes.
They have like an area, they have like silverware.
Yes.
I mean, this Happy's place, I'm telling you, this place was a shot and beer place, old school shot and beer.
It was like as though it had been dipped in amber because the place was completely covered in some kind of lacquer material for 20 years, so it had turned orange, and they had pictures.
It's kind of like the ice building. Remember the ice building in and around Overtown?
Yes.
They had this building called the ice building, and they would do photo shoots, Ice Palace, because the paint was so old, it was getting certain color. I'm sure there was lead in it too, but they was getting off all these colors, and they would do all kind of photo shoots.
Yeah, colors. People were getting high off the fumes. I think that's what was going on. But Happy's was this. It was like a time capsule because you went in there and you would see 1980s Miami. Like people with tank tops, curly hair during the days of Crockett. And Stubbs
from Miami Vice.
That's right.
Listen. I lived in Australia. I had a working visa in Australia. Yeah. So I lived on the West Coast in a place called Perth for a while.
Yeah.
The guy I was renting from was he was on the dole. Dole is when you basically sit back and you collect the money.
Yes.
On the side he was selling some stuff illicit, which is now legal in the state of Florida. Sure. Well, not in Florida, but in California. And he would just watch all day long Miami Vice.
Right.
Crockett and Stubbs. And I was renting a room from him in his place. So I ended up getting a nickname Crockett. So if that nickname sticks, that would make you Stubbs.
That would make me Stubbs, exactly, which I'm fine with. So the best part of Miami is that stories like this are everywhere, right? You can drive around, and Peter and I love going to places in Little Havana, specifically Alapata, right? All these little small places. What would you call them? Would you call them bottle bars, or what do they call them?
No, they call them the bar girl places.
Yeah.
There's actually a term. If you look at like Central American Spanish colloquialisms, there's a term, and we'll have it next week, for which these are people who come up here, they're working, they're swinging a hammer, they're doing whatever, their family's back home, they're making money, they're sending it back. Now they may be send Bitcoin, they do whatever, but maybe they're using Wise, some of these different apps to send it. And then on the weekends, sometimes they go out, they want to have a couple drinks, they go to these places, they're at a bar, they're talking to a woman on the other side, no shenanigans going on, well, at least on the surface, and then they're paying more of a premium, and this way they kind of got the interaction while their family's back home.
I mean, the thing about going out into communities like Little Havana and Alapata is that you find these very unique places with real people, right? People.
What about Lauderhill? One of my
Lauderhill?
favorite cities.
Yeah, that is true.
In all of South Florida is
I think
Lauderhill.
Lauderhill is very similar.
Lauderhill is spectacular.
Yeah,
Western Broward County is spectacular.
Yeah, it is.
These are the jewels that we have in this town.
The jewels. And you go into a community like Little Havana, in certain pockets, you'll find like, you know, very high, what some people might consider high-end restaurants because they're Michelin, they have some kind of Michelin rating or something.
I don't go to them.
And I'm fine with that. But I also like going to those places.
You're a little bougie.
I'm a little bougie, it's true. So this is an inside joke that we have all the time. So these restaurants, these small places that we've been to many
they're
times.
Independents, yeah.
They're independent. You go in there and they're playing cards, you know, and betting, which is probably not, you know, okay, kosher here in this town that maybe they could get arrested for. And people are getting pissed and they're getting into arguments because they're betting. And meanwhile, they're trying to get paid for their beers and using apps. And it's, you know, just the complication of modern and old, you know, that conflict that makes Miami so interesting, you know, that you go out on a night and you don't know where you're going to end up, you know.
And that is the beauty of Miami.
It's the beauty of Miami. And I think that is what has brought all these different generations of entrepreneurs and investors
and
some
hustlers,
swindlers over many decades, because they think that they could create something here from scratch, right?
Compare and contrast Miami and Los Angeles. As somebody who lived in LA, how long did you live in LA when you were working for the Associated Press?
About a year. Okay. And so
you got to wet your beak. You got the best part of it because you got the experience of the first year.
All of it.
Everything was new and exciting.
I loved it. Beautiful place. I mean, if you haven't been to Los Angeles, it's such a beautiful. It's beautiful because it is, in many ways, a almost like a mirror opposite of Miami, right? Because Miami is very, very concentrated, and LA, it just feels like it goes on forever. Like
so Miami, so Los Angeles is like Cafe Americano, and Miami is like Cafe Cubano.
There you go. Yeah,
small little shot, and you get the hit, and the American coffee. It's going to take you a while, and then it'll eventually kicks up.
Well, it's a different culture, so.
It's more Mexican oriented, Central American.
So the Cuban restaurants are run by Mexicans, which is, you know, here it's all Cuban, right? Yep. But you also have Ecuadorians, you have Hondurans, all these different cultures here. LA, the same thing. You have, you know, Chinese, you have, so it's the fact that we're on different coasts is part of the reason why the communities are so different, right? Chicano communities and the way people talk to each other, the expectation, the dreams. It's a different kind of dream factory, right? Because you got Hollywood out there. But the funniest part about all that is when you go there and you live there, you realize there is no Hollywood specifically, right? Hollywood is in every restaurant. It's in every McDonald's. It's in every cafe. You go in and people are talking about making movies. Oh, I just tried out for this movie. I tried this. I'm writing a script. It goes on and on and on, right? And it's a little mind shattering when you live out there, because you don't realize that it is so different, that it's so broken up, that it's not a place where you clock in at 9 and leave at 5. And Hollywood doesn't work that way. Los Angeles doesn't work that way. The light is different. Like in LA, it's more dispersed. Here, when you come here, it feels, and you've been away for a long time, it feels like your eyes are burning.
And the clouds here versus there.
Yeah. And you would think we're one country, but there's a lot of differences just going across the country. It takes 5 hours to get there, you know? So it makes sense that it would be very different.
So you come back from LA, you're back in Miami. Where are you working? What are you writing about?
So when I came back, is when I made my transition to business writing.
You got to watch out how you use that word transition.
Transition to business writing, right? Because I used to be, I came into journalism as an English major, right? So I read all the classics. English literature, all that stuff. And I imagined myself this great writer, you know, Hemingway. And that was my focus when I was at the Herald and New Times and all these places.
So you worked at Miami Herald.
Yep.
You worked at the Miami New Times.
I worked at community newspapers.
You worked at community newspapers. Yep. You worked at Miami Daily Review,
Daily Business
which
Review,
is where you and I worked together.
That's right. South Florida Business Journal. That's right. So all these places that I worked for different magazines, Miami Business Magazine.
You pretty much hit them all.
And
which was the worst publication to work for?
I would not qualify that or characterize
Come
that.
on,
I had a great
you
time
can't
at
say
all of
one.
them.
There wasn't one that was
They all taught me something different. They all taught me something different because at the Herald I was a daily writer, right? And at New Times, 10,000 word stories. Can you imagine 10,000 words? Peter, you and I were writing 500 words, 600 words, maybe, and that was a long piece.
I never wrote 500 words. That was more up your alley. No, mine was more in depth and analytical.
Oh, sorry.
Yours was more like superfluous.
Which leads us to superfluous. Which leads us to where you are today. You're a data
junkie.
Cruncher.
Yep.
A data cruncher at a level that is hard to imagine. You're like a human computer. That's what you are, right?
No, you just do something long enough. I mean, listen, if you don't know how to cook and you start working flipping eggs and burgers at Denny's, at some point you're going to get really good at it.
Yeah. Well, you're still working on getting good at making food. I understand that, especially on Gravy Days, which is something that you brought back.
I brought that back from Australia. Gravy Day is always the 21st of December.
Yep. Yeah.
It's a friends' holiday in Australia. It's an opportunity where we all get together. It's a bunch of you give each other a lot of grief. You drink, you eat, and basically it's prep work before you go into the holidays.
That's right.
Holiday season.
And what was the Seinfeld holiday where it involved a pole and Festivus. It's sort of like the Australian Festivus a little bit because it's all
but a
about
lot more booze.
A lot more booze.
And a lot more meat pies.
Right. And if you've never been invited to Peter's Gravy Day, I would see if it's possible to swing that.
Why don't we get the Miami Community News to start putting on an annual Gravy Day festival?
That's a great idea.
You know what I mean? Michael and Grant, you know how much room they have in this place?
True.
Let's do a Gravy Day in advance. They can sell tickets. We'll donate all the money to a good organization.
That's right. Michael is working on a project right now that might be very
I think we got a winner there
for that. So it's December 21st.
December 21st.
So tell us Australia, because it's such a far place, right?
Well, when you go to Australia, it's like going back 10 years in the 10 years. Well, when you come from here, it's like you know the future by 10 years.
Okay.
Everything is sort of behind. It's a great place. It's a fantastic place. It's a rough place.
Right.
They don't really have guns. So, and the guys, I don't know how they do it now, but they used to like to throw them back. And once they throw them back,
he's talking about alcohol.
And then first thing they want to do is brawl.
Yeah.
So I was working up in Queensland where Great Barrier Reef is.
Right.
And I was out drinking. They typically do Sunday sessions. Sunday sessions, you go out drinking during the day. Typically by 6 o'clock, you're passing out and you're going home. So Sunday session, I'm out, and I was up in a place called Townsville. The Australian approach to an invasion coming from the north, they're always afraid of the Indonesians or the Chinese, is to basically give up all the northern portion of Australia till you get down to a place called Townsville. That's where they have like military. And then on the west coast, it goes to a certain part. So I'm out drinking, and this guy comes up to me and goes, you an American. They call them Yanks. You a Yank. No, I'm from Canada. He's like, all right,
you
mate.
said you were from Canada.
You don't want to say that because some of the Aussies like to really
punch an American.
They like to fight. So the guy leaves. He comes back. He goes, where are you from in Canada? I'm like, Vancouver. Okay. He's going back, and you got to understand, this is the Sunday session. People are throwing him back, music playing. Come back another time. He's like, what part of Vancouver? I'm like, the east side.
Yeah.
Okay. I've been to Vancouver a couple times.
Yeah.
So he's like, okay, yeah. And then he comes back with a guy who's Canadian.
Oh no! Yeah. He caught you,
and he's like, "Oh yeah, what part? I'm from Vancouver." Like, where?
No!
And I said, "I'm not. I'm a Yank." And the guy, no BS, uppercut right in the gut.
Are you serious?
I was so many deep into it though, it didn't even really affect me. But
you can tell.
But that's sort of the Australian. It's like a tough love type of approach. I'm sure it's changed a little bit now.
Yes.
But it's a very vibrant, fun place. The Aussies. I mean, listen, what we ought to do in the United States, my opinion.
Yes.
As soon as you get out
And
of
you're
high
going to
school,
tell us your opinion, right?
of course I'm going to
Because
tell you our
normally
opinion.
you're a wallflower. You don't want to tell anybody your opinion.
You're the one who
very
won't
quiet.
say the worst publication you ever worked
quiet,
for.
Very
You won't
quiet.
say.
All right,
But what they do in Australia is when you turn 18, you're done with high school. They give you some cash. They tell you to leave.
Yeah.
They want you to go see the world for a year or two.
Yeah.
Then you come back. You got some experience.
That's it.
So now you can make decisions that are a little bit more well-rounded because you've seen stuff. You've been exposed to stuff. I think that would be a great thing here.
Okay.
I would love for people when they get out of high school here, either going to some type of service where they're going to have their eyes open to stuff and or to give them the passport,
Right.
family gives them some money, and they leave for a year, see the world, come back. And I think it would change our dynamic tremendously in this
So
country.
I think you heard it here first. Peter's running for governor. I think that's what he's
hell
saying
no.
on that plank.
I would never
He
want
wants
it.
to send high school kids out with $20 and get them out of their cities.
You've heard
right?
the term walkabout, right?
Yes.
That's what a walkabout is.
Oh,
that is a
that's what it
walkabout.
is.
See, you come here, not only give you history, we also give you culture.
Look at that. Incredible. So now that we're full of it, full of culture, I mean, I think it's time to wind this up because it's already been, how long? Like an hour and a half that we've been talking.
I don't know.
What's the word for it? That we've been talking something smack?
Well, let's make sure we cover it all before we wind it down.
All right, tell me.
So we said it's Miami's on Fire. Your
Right.
name, not mine.
Right.
But I'll run
Listen,
with it.
if you have a better idea, please
I gave
text
you a whole
us.
list of better names.
First of all, those names sucked. They were like the real estate bureau.
Don't give them out yet. Don't give them out yet.
Estate bureau.
Don't give them out yet because I don't want anybody claiming a trademark on it.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so we said we're going to talk about real estate. We talked about it a little bit.
Right.
We said we're going to talk about culture.
Yeah.
We said we're going to talk about history.
Right.
And we talked about hacks.
Yes.
Ways to kind of play the system here
Yeah.
to try to excel at a time when affordability is a real issue.
Yeah.
Living in a condo is a real issue. Living in a rental, leasing office space, it's all a real big issue. So why don't you share a hack with everybody in terms of the way you're able to navigate it, and then I will as well. And this way we would have hit our four key milestones.
So I think a good hack when you're looking for an office, and this is going to sound very self-aggrandizing, is to work with an agent. And the reason why I say that is because, and residential may not be exactly the same, that a lot of terminology in the office market is very specific to office buildings, landlords, they're all different. You know, you can choose a lot of different ways of describing the rent that you would pay if you have a business. And oftentimes when people are looking online, they think that they understand what they're going to end up paying, right? So they call up a place and they're like, oh man, this is really cheap. It's only $35
A square
triple
foot.
net
Yeah.
square foot. And they think that that is the rent. And there's actually a number that's going to come after that. It's the expenses, right? That is separate.
The junk fees.
Not junk fees. These are real expenses. So that's an important aspect of this process. Also, the leases are super complicated usually, right? They can be anywhere from 10 to 20 pages, in some cases 30 pages. No matter how big the space is, if the landlord has enough, a bunch of buildings in a portfolio, they're going to have these more complicated leases. And it's important to understand that if you're not versed, if you don't understand the terminology, you can get yourself into a situation that could be a problem, right?
Okay, so I think people understand, it's a good hack, use an agent, but how do they know who's a good agent is?
Well,
that's the hack.
Yeah, they have to, hopefully they know someone. And if not, they can call someone like me and ask, and I'm happy to recommend someone. If I'm not an expert in something, I'm happy to recommend someone. But the bottom line, and I would say the same thing about residential. Residential, everybody thinks they know residential, right? Because they live in a house, right? Maybe not everybody goes to an office anymore. They work out of their house or whatever. But everybody lives in a house or lives in an apartment, and they think they understand how residential works. It's very complicated. I mean, talk a little about that, because the market now is having a lot of challenges in Miami because of, Surfside, because of hurricanes, because of all these things that have combined to create a volcano of chaos, of numbers that don't make any sense, where our pricing compared to the rest of the country is not tracking. We're more expensive generally because we're on the water. We have all these things that are going on. There was a boom during COVID because everybody thought they would be able to work from their, $2 million house that someone had just paid $100,000 for 25 years ago. So Talk a little about that. And what is a hack for someone who's trying to figure out how to buy a house, right? How to live the American dream in Miami?
First and foremost, I would tell everybody, don't buy anything right now.
Okay.
Unless you can steal it. And what I mean by stealing it is you got to get a low price. How do you know what a good price is? This is real simple. This is what hard money lenders. So when you go to a bank and a bank rejects you and you need to get your hands on cash, you go to a hard money lender. Now they call them private lenders. This is the big thing that Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan's talking about, that they don't really know the private lending market because it's not governed the same way you're going to have that the banks are. So the easiest way to gauge pricing is whatever the rent is, that represents 1% of the value. So if you're paying $1,000 a month in rent, that means the value is worth $100,000. $10,000 a month in rent means the place is worth $1 million. It's the easiest possible way. And if you're going out to buy, you need to figure out what the rent would be in that area, and you'll know how much overvalued it is. Why is it overvalued? Because everybody who flooded in here in 2021, remember, no mask. Remember, work from home. Remember, twerk on a police car at Miami Beach. So they all came in here, they bid everything up, and you know what's happening? Many of these people got called back to the office. They're back in Wall Street. They're back in Silicon Valley. They woke up the founders of Google who were passed out on their couch, sleeping, doing whatever. So get your ass back in the office. So everybody's had to go back to work, and now these people are stuck with the condos they bought. They're trying to rent them. They can't cover the nut.
Can't cover.
Bank Rate. Jeff Ostrowski did a story.
Right.
And Bank Rate, which is a financial news site, they came out, and basically in South Florida, it's $21,000 a year cheaper to rent than it is to own.
Wow.
So once it turns, it's good. And how do you know what the price is? Figure out what the rent is. That's the easiest way to take advantage.
Right.
And until the number's there, I wouldn't do a thing. But I'll tell you my hack.
Sure.
My hack is, and you got to look at restaurants and you got to look at grocery stores as large marketplaces.
Okay.
So what you do if you're going into a restaurant you've never been to before, start with an appetizer. Do not go for everything, because the way the appetizer comes out will reflect, in my opinion,
Yes.
what the quality is. So
Yes.
do not make the commitment. Do not be afraid
point.
to ask how much everything costs.
Yeah.
They try to browbeat you into something down here in South Florida, especially people from out of town. They have this perception about Miami is.
Right.
Just tell them, like when I go to look for properties, I'm mystery shopping. I'll ask them, how much does it cost for the unit overlooking the dumpster? If you immediately eliminate any kind of like entitlement aspect and you just kind of get into the gutter, then you suddenly start to get the real news, the real information, the real details. So that's what I like to do. Like if I go to a restaurant, I'm going to start off with the appetizer, because now if you make a mistake, a burger is $20. If you want fries, it's an extra $5. Then they're going to put a 20% tip on top of it. You're out of the door for $40, $45 for a burger. So go in there, cost conscious, everybody. Be cost conscious. Pay attention to ads. Pay attention to ads. Shop around for value. If you go to one store and you're buying everything, you're making a mistake. They're bringing you in with a lost leader, kind of like what you're talking about with the rent.
Right.
$35 a foot, well, triple net. Then they have to add in all the other stuff. What's the real price? So that's what I would encourage everybody to do. Shop around, do your due diligence, and pay attention to pricing. And if you can't remember it, and Oscar, remember, is not very good. But if you can't remember it, start writing it down. Or
I write everything down.
Ask AI. I ask AI every week, what are the best deals on the street at grocery stores this week?
That's a good one.
Give me something where I'm getting 70% off.
Yeah.
And I will go there. I don't care what store. It could be Bravo, could be
like
Presidente, could be Costco.
See, Peter's giving you tips that he's never given me because we're very competitive. So
I gave them to you. You didn't remember.
We'll send pictures to each other of deals that we found in supermarkets. Like, oh, look at this. I found this for $2. And then he'll send me this pizza at 7-Eleven. Not the place you think of when you get pizza, right?
$3.14.
Yeah, but they ran out, right?
No, they didn't run out.
Okay. Here's one last tip. This is one last thing, and you and I will both agree on this, even though we don't agree on most things. Okay. Is that when you compare residential or commercial, it doesn't matter. It could be an office, retail space, whatever. Compare the per square foot cost. Not the rent, not the rent. So it's not the monthly rent that matters. It's the per square foot cost, because that's how you know that it's apples and apples.
You buy gas by the gallon.
Yes.
You buy salty snacks by the ounce.
That's right.
You probably don't buy pork bellies.
No.
You can buy coffee. Have you seen coffee prices?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Man, I stocked up on so many bricks of coffee.
Yeah.
$2.79. Now that same coffee on sale is going for $3.99, $4.99. Pilan and Bustelo.
Yeah.
$8.
Incredible.
For one of these little 10-ounce.
He's selling
bricks.
it on the Cuban eBay for double the price that he paid for it. He's making a bundle. I think he's made like $20 already.
No, but the idea is when there's a value and there's a deal in this marketplace, because affordability is an issue.
Yeah.
Interest rates are going up. The cost of everything is going up. When you see an opportunity, there's not trumpets. There's not fireworks. Go in there and buy it.
That's it.
If I see a deal, I'll buy 10 things of coffee. It might take me a year to get through it, but that's kind of the arbitrage play. And that's the part I got to get across to everybody is we're not in these competitive times anymore where restaurants are competing against each other. So, and by the way, that's a good little hack, because of Ozempic, because of the snake venom or the Gila monster venom that they use to basically calm everybody's appetite.
All right.
A lot of these restaurants are starting to really struggle. They're not putting the numbers on the board. Prices gone up and they're not selling as much as they used to. So watch for those deals. When you hear stories about Papa John's closing down because of a lack of sales, you know it's only one thing. It's people taking the Ozempic shot, people taking the Buongiorno, people taking that type of stuff. These are little tidbits.
R.F. Kennedy Jr. over here talking
I'm not
about
talking about RFK. I'm saying the opportunities. These are the situations you watch for, because eventually the market works its way out. But when you do have this overlap, these are opportunities to buy stuff and sort of stock it away, especially if the expiration date is far out in the future. Because if you don't, you're going to get yourself in a situation where you go to, I don't know, Oscar, what's something you like? You probably eat like kids cereal or something, right? Like Captain Crunch or something.
That's all I eat.
You seem like a Captain Crunch guy.
Yeah, that's all I eat.
So if you're interested for Captain Crunch.
Lucky Charms.
Dude, you're talking $8 a box.
Yeah.
When it's on sale, you can get it for like $4. So I'm just saying, if you know what your tendencies are, buy in advance, plan ahead, pay attention.
Yeah.
The grocery store is the greatest market on earth.
Yeah. So, Peter, we're going to close out, right?
Yes.
Because I think we've spoken enough at this point. And if people want to reach you, how can they reach you?
Oh, they could go to, I run a website, MiamiCondo.club.
Okay. And then if they want to reach me, they could reach out at my mobile number, 786-348-9257, 786-348-9257. And if you have ideas, we'd love to hear them for a name for the show. Right now it is Miami's On Fire. On fire!
Miami's on fire. And remember, everybody, we're trying to introduce ourselves to you. You may or may not know us, but we're going to be doing this every Thursday. We sort of look alike.
I'm the one with the glasses.
No, you're Stubbs and I'm Crockett. We already acknowledged that.
That's right.
So once a week we're going to get together. We're going to tell you what's going on in the real estate market. We'll give you our take on culture, give you our takes, give you some hacks. And basically give you an entertaining sort of discussion about what's really sort of on our mind. Why is it important? Why should you care?
Yeah.
Because not both of us are talking heads. We're not necessarily all positive.
Right.
You might be a little bit positive.
Right. We're not always talking out of our heads. Sometimes we talk out of other places. Anyway, have a great weekend. Today is what, Thursday, right?
Every Thursday, 1 o'clock.
That's it. Today is Thursday. We started at 1. We're finishing at 2:30 almost. And we're looking forward to more stories. You got tips, interesting stories you want to talk about, culture, pretty much everything, art, and sales at Sedano's. And
we are in the process of having a call-in show so we can answer your questions. We can give you advice about things. Oscar's very good at relationships, so you definitely want to call him about the relationship aspect. I can tell you about the cheap hacks in terms of restaurants and
Peter's got a great story about Little Havana and how he ran an Airbnb for a little while.
I did run an Airbnb. Anybody run an Airbnb? You got questions?
Boy, that's a great story. Make sure you ask him about that at one of his club meetings. It'll take you like 4 hours to get through that story. All right. Have a great weekend. The weather is fantastic. Get out there and enjoy it, right? And please call us or email us. I don't know. Email.
We don't have the number yet. Once we have the number, then they can call us.
786-348-9257. That's my number.
That's your number.
I'll tell Peter whatever you say.
For the show, we want to have people be able to call in.
That's right. One of our numbers is going to work for that. We'll see.
It's probably be Oscar's.
Yeah.
I don't answer the phone.
No. And he doesn't answer email. And forget about everything else. You got to throw a pigeon at his window to make sure he hears you. So anyway, have a great time. Have a great day. Enjoy the beautiful weather. Talk soon.
Ciao, ciao.